Hi, Professor Richmond. It's Lisa here with lesson plan number 2 for electronic instruments. This lesson plan is called Playing a Simple Harmonic Accompaniment in GarageBand. Again, this would be a continuation for my 5th grade students, like my first lesson plan. The description of the lesson: students will practice and perform first, in unison, a simple harmonic accompaniment to a familiar melody. We're going to use the example of Happy Birthday on an electronic keyboard instrument that they've selected from GarageBand, from all the choices. Students will then get to experiment with alternate keyboard instrument selections, choosing at least 2 other options so they hear different sounds, and they can choose also the arpeggiated function. There's an autoplay function, as you know, that would give them some more playing choices too. So the objectives are going to be, they're going to practice performing a chord progression from a lead sheet, and I showed you in my other lesson plan, but I got a very simple lead sheet here with the melody and the chords outlined for the changes. They're going to first play in unison as a group so we can just get these chords happening at the right time. Then they're going to work individually with headphones, trying out different electronic keyboards for different sounds. They can also play with the autoplay arpeggiation, see if they like that as an accompaniment. Then they're going to get into small groups and share what they've come up with, what their sound choices were, and how they performed, and how they link it up to the song, just singing with themselves and playing harmony with themselves. And an assessment would either be a live performance in their small group, or they could play for the teacher, or again, they could make a recording of their accompaniment in GarageBand. So they're going to need to know how to get to the chord function in GarageBand on keyboards. They're going to need to be able to recognize and read the chord progression from the lead sheet. They're going to have to know how to navigate the settings in GarageBand so they've got the right key, right time signature for their song. And there's also some settings in the arpeggiation function if they want to use that. And hopefully they also will already know how to do a quick recording. Those are things they probably already will have had time to work on, so that's not addressed to this lesson. They obviously need an iPad or computer with GarageBand. I'm going to be using my iPhone again today. And got the standards here. A little bit more with arranging, a lot more with performing, same thing, perform and create for the national standards. Technology time area is still electronic instrument software. And I'm not going to go through the anticipatory set because it's covered in the actual details. So we're going to open GarageBand. We're selecting tracks so that they're not stuck in live loops, so they're going to be going right to their instrument setup. We're going to be using Smart Piano, and we need the chord function, which it came up already. Now we do need the right chords for our key, so we're going to go to our settings. We're also going to select the time signature, so when we go to arpeggiation it'll be in the right rhythm. Whoops, I closed that too quick. We need to do the key signature, that's F major. All right, and then we have the chords that we need. We could also set this up with, let's see if we can do a C7. Yeah, so if we hit edit chords, we could change this to a C7 so they could hear that difference. So subtle, but it would be good to know, especially because C7 is listed on the lead sheet for them. Okay. Now we're just going to use singing and playing so that they get comfortable with when to change the chords. So if we go to the lead sheet, they're going to see that it starts with an F, but there's a pickup, and then to a C7. So we're going to sing Happy Birthday Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Whoever we're singing to. Happy birthday to you. So just that was a super fast example, but I would be playing and singing. We would break it down by phrase. They would echo me. And because it's such a familiar tune, I think they'll get the hang of that really quick. So I would give them some individual time, maybe with headphones, maybe just like 5 minutes. If there was anyone having trouble understanding which chords to use or when to change them, would be a good time for me to be able to do some one-on-one assistance. And then at that point, if they're getting that, they're able to sing through and play it, then we could go into some of the different changes. So we could go to a different instrument. What does that sound like? That's an interesting one. That was 70s synth arpeggio. If we go to synth classics, we've gone through some of these. Let's see what helix sounds like. On the iPhone, it's a little bit harder to get the full range of the chords. The finger touch seems to be, I notice I know on my iPad when I touch the very top tab, it usually plays the whole chord, and on the iPhone it doesn't seem to do that. So you would have to use your full finger to get the full chord. It's kind of rolling through the pitches a little bit on some of these options. But they would be using an iPad or a laptop, so they would probably have a lot more control over that. Although it's good for them to know they could do it on their iPhone too. All right, at that point, I would also want to demo the arpeggiation function just so that they could try that. You can set the note rate here. It's on 16th notes right now. You could set it to 8th notes. Let's just hear what that sounds like. That's probably a little too slow. So let's just change it to 16th note so we can hear the difference. So it adds a nice little rhythmic addition to the accompaniment. So they would understand how to move through the arpeggiation, turning it on, turning it off, using it, setting different speeds, and using that as an option choice for their final performance that they want to use. Then I'm going to give them time individually to work, maybe 5 to 10 minutes with their headphones on. They need to use at least 2 other keyboard selections and be able to play those chords in the right progression with the right rhythm and to sing the song with. Then I would put them in small groups, have them identify their selections to each other, demo for their small group so they're able to hear a lot more selections. Let's see what happened here. My lesson plan just slipped. And then once we've all demonstrated the keyboard selection, the teacher can assess. So I could either listen in the small groups or individual students, or again, they could record their performance for me to listen to later. I just have to check. Sometimes I know when we use the iPad cart, there was an issue with not always getting the same cart back, and so if they recorded something to save, so that's just something to look into. If you're having them save recordings, you got to make sure they can retrieve those recordings if they're going to be working on them in another week. So the evaluation, the assessment would be they'd have to be able to perform the harmonic accompaniment to Happy Birthday with the correct chords and rhythm, steady tempo, accurate pitches and rhythm. The student must be able to select and change the various keyboard choices from their instrument listing, and they should be able to sing the melody along with their chord changes, whether or not that's in tune or not, but hopefully they would be able to do it. Future related connected lesson plans would be to find a rhythmic accompaniment, like using a drum set. Add a bass line using the bass, and then play together as a little mixed ensemble with melody, harmony, bass, and rhythm. That's going to be our next lesson plan. The other thing too is if you had time, you could have them use the guitar, the smart instrument guitar, because that has chord function also. So they could decide if they wanted to do harmony on piano, keyboards, or guitar. And I think in the mixed ensemble lesson plan, I have them doing guitar just so they have more timbres, textures in their group. And that is my second lesson plan for electronic instruments. Thank you.